Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Coming up on today's show, there's so many layers to this Jalen Carter story.
And different coach, same result.
And last but not least, and for the culture, Prime is putting everybody on notice that he's running things. That's all coming up next, right here on ATL Day Ones. Let's go.
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
I want to start off by saying thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. And remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. Really appreciate that from you in advance. Today's episode of ATL Day Ones is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. But speaking of today is a very interesting day. It's been a very hectic day as well. When you're talking about news coming down, when we got the news this morning that Jalen Carter has been arrested on 2 charges for reckless driving and racing. Both of those are misdemeanor counts. And we know that, the report of Todd McShay about the character issues and everything, those things are going to start coming back up for him. And when you think about this whole situation what went down with Devin, Willock, and Chandler Lecroy, and they got into that accident, and this is what this is being linked to. Like, he was racing with Chandler Lecroy, and Willock was a passenger in the vehicle, and Lecroy was at the wheel. They were racing that night, and we come to find out that he was involved, and he left the scene of the accident. And we know that when you talk about those type of things, there was some serious offenses, and I think the NFL draft status right now is a moot point.
Yeah, and it really, really is, because it brings back so many emotions for so many people, because now you're getting all of these layers and levels of details about what happened. So similar to what Kirby Smart put out in his statement this morning, they're still wrapping their minds around the tragedy of losing Willock and Lecroy, for starters. So now here this information comes courtesy initially reported from the AJC.com as a part of their investigation. And listen, they were only doing their jobs, right? They only follow the evidence and follow the trails, and here's where it led. But yeah, very difficult situation, because not only are we talking Jalen Carter, who has vaulted back into the number 1 spot for the upcoming draft, but we're talking about a Jalen Carter who was literally on the heels of his conversations with the media today. He was on his way to that. And also, of course, his medical testing, which I believe he was able to still complete his medical testing before he left Indianapolis. But the SVP for the NFL International Communications did confirm that Carter, amongst 6 players, did indeed leave Indianapolis. Now, interestingly enough, Jarvis, I'm going to put this out here because this may actually give some context and texture to what you were sharing as well. Jalen's statement just listed, and I quote, "This morning I received a telephone call from the Athens, Georgia Police Department informing me that 2 misdemeanor warrants, as you mentioned, have been issued against me for reckless driving and racing. Numerous media reports also have circulated this morning containing inaccurate information concerning the tragic events of January 15, 2023. It is my intention to return to Athens to answer the misdemeanor charges against me and to make certain that the complete and accurate truth is presented. There is no question in my mind that when all of the facts are known, that I will be fully exonerated of any criminal wrongdoing." And I wanted to share that, Jarvis, because one of the things you and I pre-briefed about was the fact that we don't know all the facts. We have a basic knowledge of the facts that you shared very specifically relative to what the Athens Clarke County Police Department shared. So we have that information. But other than that basic information that we'll talk a little bit more about, we're all trying to wrap our minds around exactly what this means, both for the humans involved, who are still reeling from those deaths from a month and a half ago, as well as what this might do to impact Jalen Carter. Not just the draft for the sake of, is he now going to be the number 1 pick? But this is his life we're talking about.
Yeah.
And what this might mean for not just for his draft status as it relates to his professional life for going forward. A lot of layers to this thing.
Yeah, and the concern that I have, because being a former college athlete, I've been in situations where the end result didn't necessarily affect me, but I know I put myself in a situation that could have ended up being a totally different situation and potentially losing my life, because I've been in cars with people drinking and been in a situation where I'm behind the steering wheel as well and going at speeds that I know I'm not supposed to be going at. So when this story came about, I kind of, now get me wrong, I felt for Devin. I feel for Chandler, Lecroy, because to lose your life at that age is it's unfathomable. Because, and then you talking about the family and all that situation, that just kind of piles on as far as like the sorrow and everything, the empathy that I have for those people.
Indeed.
You know what I mean? So I think that when you talk about the person in Jalen Carter, and I really like that one part where he said he's going to go back to Athens and answer those questions to make sure that the truth gets out. Because here's the thing, like we know that the Todd McShay reports came out, and we know how some people like who cover this team, like you and I, we were like, what? Wait a minute, what is all this about? So and then it was mostly speculation, right? Because he wasn't really specific as to what those character questions were. So now that we have some evidence that people can add to that, like, hey, he's out here driving recklessly and speeding and racing. So obviously it's character issues, right? So they can justify that report. So and that's what I don't want to happen. I don't want justifications of things that aren't factual. So with Jalen, I hope everything gets cleared up. And, he's able to, answer those questions and be honest and be truthful this time around, you know what I'm saying? And hopefully get this situation resolved, because bringing these feelings and thoughts and everything back up to that January 15th event is hurting for a lot of people outside of Jalen Carter or the Willock family and the Lecroy family. So they don't want to go through this again. And I think that's the people that I think about when it comes to this particular situation.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because, that's something that I was saying as well, just kind of sent a quick tweet out, because, it tugs at our hearts, and it's like, let's show some patience and let's show some grace because of the pain of what happened to Dog Nation and all of those who are affected by it. That is still very, very raw. And again, we still have details. We still have to remember that innocent until proven guilty is the law of this land. And all we know right now is that there are 2 misdemeanor charges leveled by the Athens Clarke County Police Department regarding what happened, the events on the night of January 15th, and that Jalen Carter has acknowledged that he is returning to Athens, Georgia to address them front and center.
Absolutely. And like I said, as we go along, we'll definitely be talking about it and giving you guys our thoughts on this particular situation, and checking to make sure for updates so we can give all the up-to-date information, because that's what we're about right here on ATL Day Ones.
Yes.
Speaking of up-to-date information, we got some up-to-date conversations or comments from one Terry Fontenot, T. And I thought this was a little interesting. I want you to check out Terry Fontenot talking about upgrading the pass rush.
When we talk about pass rush, it's not just about the defensive line or the D tackles or the defensive ends. You want to add everywhere, because it doesn't matter how quick you're getting to the quarterback. If the coverage isn't good, then it doesn't matter.
Now, when you hear that, T, I you know what? I want you to go first, because I got an idea where I think you can go. I have some thoughts as to that, that comment. But I would love to hear what you give me the Tenitra translation on one Terry Fontenot.
So I feel like that was Terry Fontenot doing GM coach speak. And
yes.
And Terry does not do coach speak and GM speak the way others do, where it's like you feel like he's tap dancing and telling you lies, basically, or trying to do smoke and mirrors. But I do think that he's just leveraging to make sure that you understand that while he knows, like you said, based on the fact that Ryan Nielsen is starting to have an effect on him and how they think about where the war is won in the trenches, But I think he just wants to let you know he's just kind of laying out the foundation. And let me just say it this way, Jarvis. And I have two theories, so I'm going to try to be quick with it. The first theory is he's laying it out that way because number 8 is still a leveraging tool. I said that when we talked about it. I think Monday we started talking about it. And the fact that everybody keeps talking about them jumping up. Why the Falcons have to jump up? The Falcons could go down because that draft, depending on if it went like last year, everybody went QB crazy. That could drop somebody into the Falcons' lap, or someone could project to even be there at 10 or 12 or 14, and they could get some assets.
You know, like, sorry, what happened?
Right, exactly. But yeah, like for real, so many things can happen. So I think he's just kind of leveraging to say, hey, if I don't just go and get an edge rusher right there at 8, and it's that guy, whoever your guy is, that it's perfectly okay because I'm still going to get somebody that's going to impact the game in the trenches. And I say that loosely because we still know there are some things that could or could not happen with Caleb McGarry. That's my part 1, Jarvis. My quick part 2 is, look, man, if you don't go out and get an edge rusher at number 8 or somebody that can lay hands, I hear what you're saying. In terms of, yes, I'm talking like lay hands and sign of the cross and some
holy water, like at the cross, all that. I need all that.
That guy standing over you saying, I hope Jesus helps you up because I'm not going to. That guy, we want him. Okay. Yeah. And so, I hear what you're saying. You're absolutely right. It does take on some level all 11 and in particular your front 7. I get that. But I really just hope he was kind of leveraging and making sure that if he goes in a different direction, we'll kind of be okay, but we're not going to be okay. I really just hope he was saying that because we don't know what some of those other teams are going to do that are hovering around that 8 spot.
Yeah, I'll sum it up like this. All they meant when he said that was the fact that there's going to be an emphasis on the defense as a whole, and they're gonna add on every level. Yes, and I have no issue with that. Let's just start with the defensive line, like the Tenitra mantra says. We are still rolling with that on ATL day ones. We want you to roll with an app. Because you know why? What's the app, Jarvis? It is the FanDuel Sportsbook app, FanDuel.com/locked-on. That's where you need to go to because guess what? For all you new customers, they got $1,000 for you if you don't win on your first bet. They call it their no sweat first bet. So all you got to do is go there, download that app, and you can get in on the action, man. That's what you need to do because once you download the app, it's safe, secure, and super easy to use. You don't have to worry about nobody sharing your information and all that stuff. And then you can bet on everything from the money line, the point scores, the threes drain. The Hawks play Friday night. Trae Young. What's the over under? Where do I need to go? They got all of that right there just for you. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/locked-on. That's FanDuel, not Dulu, .com/locked-on. Make every moment more with FanDuel. It is the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
And as you were saying that, Jarvis, my first thought was you better go check that over-under for Dame Lillard out here dropping 70 points on folks
Lord.
And coming into
with
the
13 threes the other night. Good Lord.
That's the guy. Yeah, that's the line that you probably want to watch. God help the Hawks get ready for him. And of course, they tried to do what they thought, or what some could have thought was going to be a tune-up type of game last night, right? Mm-hmm. But honestly, there's not that much difference from 8 to 10, right? Hawks being in the 8 spot, Wizards at the time being in the 10 spot. And you're hoping, but you got Quin Snyder, and maybe he can put a little bit of a tweak and a touch here and there to get them the W, a much-needed W in their very first matchup with the Wizards this season. It didn't come. It was a 119-116 loss Tuesday, the 13th home loss of this season. And, one of the things we were looking for was whether or not there would be an obvious difference. We talked about seeing that in the team yesterday. I mean, did you? And if you did, can you let me know what it was?
Woo, wow. To be honest with you, on the surface, it seemed like there was a difference, right? Just from it seemed like there was some different level of intensity from a defensive standpoint at points, but not consistently, which is
Right.
what we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
So because like to start that game off, I'm sitting up here like, okay, Kyle Kuzma, I know he's a better player, but is he really that doggone
Right,
good?
right.
Like Kyle Kuzma out here getting buckets. Like I'm just like straight buckets, T. And I'm just like, and then the lane just started looking like a layup line again. I'm just like, all right, man, y'all making my head hurt with all this stuff. And then at the end of the game, when you got Bradley Beal giving your best defensive player all he wanted. He gave DeJounte Murray all he wanted, and there was nothing they could do. So I'm sitting up here like, okay, like if your best guy, which we know he's out there giving it 100% on that end of the floor, it's like if your best guy can't do anything, like it was just that night. It was just your night. But the one thing that really, really stood out to me, though, T, was the fact that John Collins was not at the end of that game. I think it was about 4 minutes left in the game. Saddiq Bey was in the game, and he was not there to end the game. And I'm sitting up here like, hey, baby.
I love it.
Because the man was on fire from three. When John just can't hit threes anymore. Like those days are gone, seemingly.
But were they ever really here? But go ahead.
I mean, like you saw the improvement,
Better
right,
clip.
from year to
Better
year.
clips.
Yeah,
You are absolutely right.
He started shooting at a better clip.
Yes.
But like this year, this season specifically, when he's shooting a three, I know it's not going in. I know for a fact. I was like, there's no chance that because he even took one in the fourth quarter, and when it went up, I was like, there's no way that ball is going in, and it was literally off the rim. And next thing you know, I seen 41 strolling right on up in the game, and I was just like, because they need that. With the type of guards that they have on this team, there are going to be open threes that you have to make. And they don't shoot enough threes in the first place. So when you have a guy, when you're not shooting that as many as you possibly can, and you have guys who you know that they're not going to go in, that is a bad combination. And I think that I'll be interested to see how this goes in these next 20 games, T. What that rotation looks like going forward at that 4 spot. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out with Quin Snyder.
And I'm so glad you said that, Jarvis. Allow me to have just a little bit of a moment where I bring in our girl, Lauren Williams. She just sent a tweet that I think is tangential to what you just said. Jalen Johnson, of course, didn't play last night. It was more of a 9-man rotation. But at practice today, Quin Snyder pointed out that we don't see many 10, 11-man rotations. He reiterated again, though, that the Hawks need JJ and that he and AJ Griffin could swap in and out of rotations. And I do believe that he means that. Like, I think that's a genuine comment for him. From him. I think he wanted to see what his top 9 were going to do in the lineup. And I think you make a great point. When Saddiq Bey is hitting and AJ Griffin is hitting, you got to leave those guys in there, because how many times did we have head scratchers when Nate McMillan would take them out at critical moments, especially AJ Griffin, and we'd be like,
put
AJ back in. What are you doing?
Man is like literally hitting.
Yes,
like,
yes.
When he's on, leave him in.
Leave him in, exactly. So that's what it kind of felt. Yeah, you make the adjustment.
Right.
So that's kind of what I just want to kind of throw that in there, because I thought it was interesting based on the exact point you just made. But that said, I kind of felt like it was different coach, same result, but I'm going to give it a caveat, because yes, the result was the same in that the Hawks had a 10-point lead. They blow it down the stretch. Trey gets a couple of open looks and he doesn't do anything with it. Some other things that I saw happen. 0.9 of a second left on the clock before halftime. And unfortunately, Trey gets called for a phantom foul. Trey should not have been called for that.
At all.
You got the call.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but you got 0.9 on the clock. Inbound that bad boy and just heave it up and see what happens. I saw a team just kind of walk off the court like, la, la, la. That bothered me, Jarvis, because I feel like every moment in a potentially close game with a potentially close playoff race should be a dagger moment for you. Like, what if you hit that? That could be some serious momentum, or God forbid, oh, wait a minute, Jarvis, here's a new one. What if you try to hit it and then your guy gets fouled and gets 3 free throw shots? Yeah,
that's a difference.
It can happen.
It's a 3-point swing right there.
There it is. So, and you just hit the nail on the head. You lose by 3 points. You lose by 3 points. those are the little moments where we definitely don't want to always say it comes down to one play, but you can point to individual plays where you
Right.
can see that it could have come down to that, or situations like points in the paint. I mean, folks were out there, even though Clint Capella had a good game, but it goes back to you and what you said, which is we need your whole front court to defend the paint, not just giving all of the responsibility to Clint Capella, right?
Can't be
So
all on
I
him.
saw that happening again. You got Clint Capella out here stealing balls and blocking. What the heck? I mean,
Yeah.
Now, what I did like was, the turnover rate was single digits, and you and I
Yeah.
talked about that a couple nights ago. So they were at least back to that, and I
Right.
felt like they did, for the most part, take 3-pointers when they were supposed to. I didn't see a lot of threes that were just heaved up early in the clock. That's why I said I wanted to put a caveat on it, because
Right.
I believe that those are the kinds of things that Quin Snyder will tweak. I believe he spent a lot of time observing last night and coaching, which is a tough balance. But I thought he did a good job of that, trying to make assessments that I do think if you give this team an opportunity, they'll do what they're supposed to do, because he's a mentally tough guy and he's going to get you where you need to be with mental toughness as well.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, because we know that, like, the speed dating process was hiring Quin Snyder and marry him to Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, John Collins, Clint Capella, and DeAndre Hunter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, hey, how you doing, Coach? I love you, Coach. Oh, you gonna get me better, Coach? Yeah, I got you, Coach. So those are some of the things that we have to kind of work through that. Like, even though it's a great scenario. Oh, Quin Snyder comes in with 23 games left, and he takes them on to the 6th seed, and they get a home playoff round, and the Hawks as an organization they would make some home court money and all blah 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 blah, all that stuff. No, this is the real. Coach came in there and he even kind of showed some deference to Joe Prunty by drawing up the play on the last play. The last shot of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are some of the things that he's going. That's the real. That's what we're going to have to say. Okay. He's really feeling his way out. The man was on a 2-month vacation in Costa Rica. Like, what are we talking about?
Okay.
I mean, at some point, we're going to talk about it for the culture. Not today, but I'm trying to get 2-month vacation life. I'm trying to live that lifestyle. What that life here known. But anyway, but what I'm saying is, like you said, we're going to have to practice some patience. But it is frustrating that, we start to see some of the same things that came about with Nate. We start to see it with Quin Snyder at the helm as well.
You just can't get rid of bad habits overnight. That's just the reality of it. It became a habit for a reason. And so that was my thought. And, I just got one question for you, maybe, and I want to kind of sum it up with my one quick as well, but I want to defer to you first. And then, hey, we got more conversation and reaction for you guys tomorrow. So please come back, because we got some more things that we want to deep dive into ahead of that Hawks Blazers showdown Friday night. That said, Jarvis, one positive or one negative, your choice, in what you saw in Quin Snyder's debut last night.
It would have to be the decision to make an adjustment, right? Because it would be normal as all going to hell. Nobody will really question it if you leave John Collins in the game. But given the situation, given what Saddiq Bey was bringing to the game, it was almost refreshing for him to kind of adjust that rotation, saying, you know what, bump that rotation. I'm feeling this. My feeling is I need to put 41 in the game, and that's what I am really encouraged by.
Yeah, I like that as well. And also, it wasn't necessarily that AJ Griffin had his greatest game. Obviously, he only had 2 points. That's not really AJ-like, right? And Onyeka Okongwu struggled a little bit because he got into some foul trouble. Some of it not of his own doing. There were some bad calls last night. But I wanted to just co-sign on what you said in terms of the minutes and the usage of the bench, because let's just face it, the starters are what they are. But the bench, it's kind of a different, sometimes Bogey shows up.
You got to feel that out. Yeah.
Feel it out, and let's see who has the hot hand. And sometimes that's a hot hand on offense, and sometimes that's a hot hand on defense, because low key, Bogey's numbers may not show it. And in fact, I'll even pull his numbers real quick from last night: 16 points, 2 assists, and no steals or blocks and just 2 rebounds. But Jarvis, he had active hands. And he was everywhere. He wasn't standing still last night. So I just wanted to co-sign on what you said in terms of making the adjustments, feeling out the game, and kind of really seeing who's bringing what to the table at what point in the game. Look forward to seeing more of that Friday and talking about more of it. But listen, we know the biggest story in all of sports right now is Jalen Carter. And that is, I'm sure, what the guys over at Locked On Sports Today are talking about. So don't forget to check those guys out. And listen, we know that can be a stressful situation, and we don't want to make light of that stressful situation. We definitely are praying for everybody who's caught up in that situation. Like we said, if you want to hear reaction to it, you know where to check it out here, and check them out as well on the Odyssey app or wherever you download your podcast. Actually, not so much the Odyssey app, but wherever you download your podcast, YouTube. It's really more about Built Bar. And last night stressed you out a little bit because you saw Trey with the ball in his hands 2 times before the game was over, and you thought money. It wasn't money. So get yourself a Built Bar, and it'll make everything okay. Churro, almond, all kinds of cool flavors. 100% real chocolate, 17 grams of protein. What? And only 130 calories. I think you got a winner there. Go to built.com, or you can go to Walmart, or you can go to Sam's Club if you like to buy in bulk. Just remember, everything's going to be okay if you got a Built Bar.
Absolutely. But T, this is For the Culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, the culture, and sometimes whatever the hell we want to talk about, because that's just how we get down on the show. Today is no different. How about this? Now, we know all the conversations that were had when Deion Sanders, Prime as I refer to him as, took his happy behind from Jackson State on up to Colorado. And, Prime, when you hire a guy, a coach like that, there's going to be some things that come with that. And I think that when you sent me this video of Prime sitting at the head of a table with some people that were, that looked like him, some black folk, and some people that didn't look like him, and some clear people, you know what I'm saying? Cool white folks, what I'm saying? This is a mixture. Nice little kumbaya. And he was sitting up there at that table, T. But when that man said, so when I got my theme music, when I say hit my theme music, I almost lost it.
We are so alike because that's the part that got me to hit my theme music. But you said what?
Like, how can you get mad at a dude like this? Now, he did say some stupid stuff the other week, but, we'll talk about that another day. But, how can you sit up here and take this man seriously and not absolutely just fall out laughing of him trying to explain the timing of which the band need to start playing their music after he says, hit my theme.
And you're going to see the reaction of what happens and how it hypes him up. And it was so funny because and you guys should check out the video. We'll tweet it to you guys.
Yes, we'll tweet it out at Locked On ATL. Yes.
Exactly, because I had 3 reactions, and that's why I wanted Jarvis to speak on it. Because my first reaction was, I'm a sister, so I'm going to see what the sisters at the table are doing. Notice the sisters' heads were down because they were like, we don't know where this is going. We don't know where this is going. We're just going to play like we're taking notes because we don't know where this foolishness is going. Those girls never looked up. Check the video. And then the white coaches, on the other hand, were like, okay, so Prime, okay, coach, yes, we get it. So the music is going to be. And it was like they were so methodical with it. And it was
they were really trying to understand.
They were trying to, and I was like, that's when you hit them with the south side, with the southern, bless your heart. Because they were trying. Like they legitimately
really trying.
Understand the cadence and the tone, and do we do it at 147 or do we do it at the 156 mark? Or like, is it when you like stride out, or is it when you dance out like Prime? I mean, they were trying to figure it out. And they couldn't get it. It was
and then at the end, and this when I went to my grave. At the end, when the young lady, a European sister, said, she was like, so normally we play this, but I think if we can do this at this time, and when you wanted to do it, and then when you be able to do it like that, I think it'll just be really great. And Prime was just like, yeah. I was just like, yeah, man.
I said, this one right here. Man. But I will tell you the one thing that did kind of frustrate me. And again, you guys need, now this, you need to hit us with your comments on. You need to email us,
please,
or tweet us or DM, because there was a heated debate on Twitter about it this morning. And the debate basically was about whether or not we felt like he was a culture vulture. Well, he's a black man, so he ain't vulturing nothing. Okay. It's his culture.
It's his.
So I don't agree with that part, but I do agree with it being a culture vulture of HBCUism. And the thing about it is, as long as you recognize continuously where it came from, the way that Ohio State kind of developed this relationship with Southern, because they know, like, okay, you do your little dot of the I/O or whatever the heck you do, but this right here, these are the originators of all of this, and they developed a respect for one another. So if Colorado can develop a respect for the culture that is HBCU football and HBCU sports and HBCU culture, I have no problem with it. But if you dare take it there, whether it's Deion Sanders or that program, and try to act like it's your own, I'm just going to fall back and let the Twitter folks come for you. Okay?
Yes. And we know how the vultures will be lurking and ready to pounce because the HBCU world is real. It is real. And they will come for you and they will find you. Hopefully, we won't have to come for you or find you, in that particular situation, because you guys come to us each and every day and make ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. We really appreciate that from you. How about this? Another request. Go ahead and make Locked On Sports Today your second listen of the day, because we know they're going to be talking about the big news, whether it be Jalen Carter or spring training. They got all the big news of the day. The NFL Combine's going down. So everything that you're looking for as far as the national news, Locked On Sports Today has got you covered. And you can find them wherever you find this podcast. Just scroll right on over to Locked On Sports Today. We're the A's, so we up first. And then all you got to do is scroll down to the L's and you'll find it right there. So, before, I think one of the things that, T, that I like to do, as we get ready to get on up out of here, I always ask people one request. And I think today it serves as a even bigger request. And it should be easy to you. Make sure you go out there and share love, show love, and most importantly, spread love.